Welcome to the Grief Bully podcast. I am your host, J.Nicole. Thank you for joining our weekly discussion around grief, mental health, and your overall personal wellness. The Grief Bully podcast will serve as a vehicle to help you navigate life's journey. Be sure to subscribe, review, and share the podcast with anyone in your life that you think it will help. Let's bully grief together. What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of Grief Bully Podcast. I am your host, J.Nicole. Today is Monday, March the 1st. We are back in the studio, rocking and rolling, episode 81. Guys, I am excited about today's episode. We've got a guest on the show. We've been connecting virtually for some time now through social media. She listens to the podcast. We've had multiple conversations. And I just want to get into this episode today. I'm going to thank my sponsors on the back end. This is important for us to get into this today. So we have Ashley Fields from Orphan. She's got a blog. She's got an amazing story. And Ashley, look, I just want to say right now, before we even get started, I'm proud of you. I am so proud of you. I know you've been wanting to just kind of get out there, get things underway, and just share your story. And you know that I think it's super important to give your story a home outside your body. So let's get into it. Ashley, what's up?
What's up? What's up? I am so happy to be talking with you today. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So Ashley is a track star, right? Can I go out on a limb and say that before we get into the grief stuff?
Yeah, you go.
Because I know Baylor is D1, right?
Yes, it is.
So Division I track star, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, only thing I know too much about Baylor is obviously Brittany Griner played there for basketball.
Yes.
Did you go to school around the same time or?
Yeah, we did. We actually went to school around the same time. So they won their national championship while I was there and she was there. So yeah, going to school when she was there was pretty cool.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's something definitely to talk to your family about. That's pretty cool right there. So we connected on social media. And it's the grief community. I feel like with the world being so large that it would be harder to connect with people, but I'm starting to feel like it's actually small, the grief community. What do you think?
So when I first started looking for the grief community on Instagram and I searched the hashtag, I was surprised to see how many different profiles and just pages there were of just different people from around the world that were sharing their journey, who were grieving. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I was just like, wow, I think I want to be a part of this. I remember seeing your page and I was just like, wow, it was just something that I really didn't think that I could do. I didn't think anybody would care about. So sitting here now today and thinking about how far just I've come with Orphanage and just how many people I've met, including you, it's just wow, I'm very grateful for finding this community. It's been really special.
Definitely. I cannot agree with you more. And so we're going to get into this. The one thing I got to say, I do like the orphan-ish now. I don't obviously like the orphan part of it because I do know what that means. But how did you come up with that? And where do you want to jump in with your story? Because I don't want to just bombard you because I know that it's definitely some substantial losses that you've suffered. But let's just get into it.
So I guess we can just start kind of before I started the page. So in 2019, loss really just hit me hard. Starting in March, I lost my dad. So it's almost been 2 years since I lost my dad. He had stage 4 lung cancer. He was diagnosed in February and I lost him a month later. Something that to me, it came as a shock. I didn't know that he was sick. I didn't know he wasn't feeling well. I still remember the day that my mom told me and then coming home and just talking with him and him telling me that he had lung cancer. And I couldn't believe, I really just couldn't believe how bad it was. Okay, so what happened to stages 1, 2, and 3? How did we just get right here at this moment? And I think for him, he kind of made peace with death and how he was feeling and his illness that he had. And so for me, I wasn't there. I was just no, Dad, we're not doing this. But unfortunately, he lost his battle. the day before he was supposed to start chemo. And it was just my mom and I after that. And a couple months later, it was June by then. It was a couple weeks after my mom's 62nd birthday. And she passed away in the night. She had trouble breathing and her heart stopped several times just in between leaving like our home, going to the hospital, in between in the ambulance. So again, a sudden loss. And yeah, they are my entire world. So losing them, man, has been tremendously difficult. And I've been struggling to find like my place and my identity and just kind of where I fit in this world now without the two people who brought me into this world. So I ended up leaving my hometown, Buffalo, New York, um, after having some difficulties just being there. I kind of was settling things on my parents' behalf. And so I decided to move back to Texas, to Dallas. And right when I moved, the pandemic started. So I not only was just ready for a fresh start, but then I was just forced to isolate and to not be around people, to stay in the house at that point. It was very early in the pandemic. And so I was just trying to figure out ways to really just healthy ways to process my grief and process my loss. I think thinking back to a year ago, wow, I was just at a moment of just understanding my parents were no longer physically here. And to think about where I am now and how much farther I am, I'm very proud of myself coming on here and talking about this. I definitely could not have done this a year ago. I could barely gather words together to kind of share a story about what has happened. So creating Orphanage for me really was an outlet for me to start talking about my journey, sharing about my parents, telling me, excuse me, not telling me, telling others about their memories and just their life and how much I love them, and sharing pictures. And from there, I met a lot of other people who have had other losses or similar losses, and just being able to have a space where not only I feel safe to share, but having others share with me just has been transformative in my healing process, and just wanting to talk about grief and loss and wanting to normalize having conversations and talking about these things.
Well, you're
It's
doing it.
even like,
You're doing it. You're
yeah.
doing it. And you know, the thing is, I was going to say, if I didn't already, which I know I did, I said I was proud of you. I certainly am. And I think that I want you to not just say, like, you're proud, like, really feel that, because what you're doing is an anomaly, right? So, not everybody can go through the amount of grief and loss and trauma that comes along with that. And then less than a year later, 2 years later, be able to go out here. I mean, listen, the people are listening to this podcast in like the Philippines and Brazil. I'm always saying shout out to them. I don't know how that happens, but so I can say that you're saying it in front of the world. And it's so admirable, because even though I do this every day, all of the time, like, I understand how hard that can be. And so if I keep saying to you, I'm proud of you throughout the episode, I apologize in advance, but I am. And so someone could think, like, why are you smiling, J.Nicole? Like, your face is lit up. But
I
because when you see
appreciate
that
you.
light bulb moment, though, that breakthrough
Yeah.
and healing for
Hmm.
someone, when I
It
can
feels so good.
imagine how you've been, I, listen, both of your parents, both of your parents. Do you have any siblings?
Nope, I am the only child.
Oh my.
So, like I said, they are my world. Literally, it was just us three, and that's all I had. And now it's like literally, I don't have anything. I have to start over and kind of redefine my definition of family and what that looks like, and kind of be open to expanding that, because if I don't, it's going to be very lonely and even more isolating than what grief already can do. And I don't want that for myself. And I know my parents would definitely not want that for myself. So um, being able to talk about these things and in hopes that, like you said, people are listening all around the world that are listening. And I hope that um, they understand that not only that they're not going through this alone, but um, grief comes in, like I was talking about in my post earlier, ebbs and flows. And, you know, some days it's going to be really, really, really hard. But the next day you may find joy or you may not. But I know that I can't give up on this journey. I can't give up riding these waves because I'm here for a purpose. And when it is time to see my parents again, when it is time for us to reunite, it's going to be so beautiful. And until then, I have to be here. And I'm really just called to talking about this. And I'm even going back to school in the fall to kind of further like my research and wanting to kind of push this type of stuff into schools, because now, especially more than ever with the pandemic and the way children are, their routines are being changed and they're not understanding like what is going on and why can't we go back to school and the way things were before. And that's a type of loss. And on top of just death and other types of different losses. So I really just want to be able to have these conversations because they're so important.
So important.
And
They're so important. I mean,
yeah.
I think that's the one thing that you realize is that although the speaking about it can be scary, I personally
Mm-hmm.
think the silence is more dangerous. I think the
Mm-hmm.
silence is more dangerous, right? Because that's a thing that's a literal and it's figuratively as well. So
Yes.
you're literally silent, but then what that represents as far as like that shutdown and suppression of your emotions. And one thing that
Mm.
you said that I really loved, Ashley, was that you have to remain open to the new idea of
Yes.
family. And so I think I want the audience to make sure that you guys catch that you understand that there's options because you said the joy may or may not come, but it's
Mm-hmm.
your choice if you settle
Yep.
in the suffering. And so what I hear is that you're not choosing to do that. And although, hey, listen, we're not going to paint a picture that's not a reality. Some of those days, doggone it, will really stump you. That day I went on live. Honestly, I got to tell you, I felt like I was having an out of body experience. Like I was in this hysterical crying fest. Then I was like, I got to be empowering. I'm getting on live.
Mm-hmm.
And then like my eyes were still burning. And I was just like, what is even
Mm.
happening? But for some reason, at the end of it, I felt better. But it's those times where you can't even find the words, but at least you're trying, or not that you can't find the
Yes.
words, but you might not be sure that those words are accurate or right on point of how you're feeling. But the fact that you're just expressing and the fact that we're trying to do that is
Yep. I'm
again why I'm
trying.
saying I'm proud of you and I'm proud of what you're doing because that's very, very difficult to do. And going back to school and trying to help other people, I think there's a lot of power in helping and trying to do
Yes.
that. And so what is that like when you get the news? So you understand that your father has stage 4 lung cancer. And
Mm.
like, did you hear any possibility? Because I understand that you said you didn't want to accept it how he was. And what I'm trying to get at here is that struggle between being supportive and trying to love that person, but also honoring how you're feeling with the same news. And I'm only saying that because I think a lot of people go through that. I know myself personally, I went through that where you hear this, and my dad was similar to what you're saying your dad was, where he's like, I'm not scared to die. He's like, this is God's plan for me. Like, this is my life. And I'm just like, no, like, I can't do this. So just if you can speak a little bit, I don't want to go too much. I don't want to
Yeah.
make you feel a type of way. But I would just love to hear what that was like.
Yeah. So literally, maybe the day after my dad told me, I was working in Syracuse at the time. So it was about maybe like a 2 hour drive. Drove home because I wanted him to tell me, because my mom ended up telling me that he had it. And I wanted him and I to have a conversation. I didn't want it to just be something my mom told me. We just kept moving on. So, and he told me, like, I have stage 4 lung cancer. We're going to do this as a treatment plan. These are the options. He had everything laid out and he was ready to talk about it. And I just told him that I wasn't ready to accept that you have this, because that means that you're probably not going to make it very long, Dad. And for him, he knew I was a worrier. And I think that's also why I didn't know too much about the situation. And I think he didn't want me to worry. He didn't want to have, I was working at the time, and he knew just how much I've been working and putting into school and track and all that at the time. So he was so proud of me, and he wanted me to go out and do whatever I wanted to do in my life. And he didn't really want me to worry about my mom and him. So for us to have that conversation, I think it was more so I just wasn't ready to let him go physically. I didn't want him to be sick. I just didn't want this. And I think instead I really just wanted to just love him. I think that's one thing I wish I would have done just a little bit more, just love him during that time, making sure that I was there. With my job, it was difficult at the time to go back and forth. They weren't really, I don't really know what they really weren't, but they weren't really feeling me leaving, going and coming back, even though I wasn't that far. It was like a 2-hour drive. Even after I told them the situation, I kind of kept updating them. So I eventually did end up quitting my job, but that was after he passed. But I wish I just would have given him that time. But I guess I just didn't know. I thought we had more time.
Yeah. You thought you had more time. Don't, and that's the thing
Yeah.
too. And I'm not here to preach to you, but I always say, and I'm sure you've heard me say this a million times, that if onlys will absolutely kill you. And we can
Mm-hmm.
only make decisions based on our knowledge and what we
Yeah.
know. So if you were to go through this again, you would do it differently, Queen. But you got to understand that emotional deficiency is real and that you're making decisions based on how you feel currently at that time. And there's a lot of things that,
Mm-hmm.
trust me, I would have definitely done differently. But being in that situation, you have no siblings. You're trying to deal with this. Is you and your mom at the time and make all these decisions. And then to have an employer that, quite frankly, I'm just going to say they suck. And I've talked about that,
Yeah.
the disenfranchised
Yeah,
grief
for
and
sure.
how, as a society, like, if someone tells you their parent has stage 4 lung cancer and they need to make accommodations, like, that shouldn't even be a tug of war. It really shouldn't. It
Right.
just really shouldn't, because
Mm-mm.
at the end of the day,
Mm-mm.
like, just get someone else to do these tasks. Because if I was to quit,
Right.
you would find someone else. So just do that. But whatever. That's a whole nother rant for a whole nother day. I'm not even going to do that. You got me on my soapbox, but because it like pisses me off. It really does. And I know you and
Yeah.
I had that
Yeah.
conversation about that as far as the employers and just how that goes and all of that stuff. But I love that you said that, because it was so true that you didn't want any of this. And that's so fair to say that. Sometimes I don't think we can just sit in it and give ourselves that permission and freedom to say, I don't want this. Like, I don't
Right.
want you to die. That's it. That's just
Yeah.
it. But I'm so powerless. Like, I can actually feel it in my body right now as I'm talking to you,
Mm-hmm.
how powerless I felt in those moments. But you still got
Yes.
to make decisions. You still got to sign papers. You still got to help your mom because you didn't have any
Mm.
siblings. I had siblings and such. But it's so much that goes on when we talk about grief and loss. And so I say that it's beyond the death, because of course that's the action that
Yes.
took place,
Yeah.
but that's not the remnants, right? You
Mm-hmm.
are what's left over, and whatever parts of you that are still there, you've got to try to put together and then continue to navigate and move through that. And sometimes it looks like we have it together, and sometimes people might think you're losing it a little bit, and that's okay. It's okay, Queen. Look, just tell them, like, I'm not well today. Don't expect
I am
much
not
of
well.
me. It is what it is. And I want people to get
Yeah.
more in that place as a community and a society. I think as women of color, and maybe you can speak to this as we start to wrap up everything. Did you feel an extra pressure on yourself to be strong, because we just have this stigma, like, strong black woman,
Mm-hmm.
I got this, I moved through this, I can't show my weakness, I make stuff happen, but it's like, well, what happens when happens to you?
I was just listening to something. Oh, I think it was yesterday. It was a podcast, and they were saying how Black women have this superwoman cape on, um, where we think that we have to be strong, we can't break down, we have to help others, we just have to go, we have to do it. And I definitely felt that, especially immediately after my mom passed, because I became responsible for everything, even things that were supposed to be done on my father's behalf. I became responsible. And I literally was on go. I was going to work. I was going to meet the attorneys. I was going to meet the realtors. I was going to go meet the funeral home. I was going here. I was going to the bank. Like, I was all over the place. And because I was all over the place, making it happen and not worrying about me, making sure others are okay, not talking about my grief because others are uncomfortable, I physically got so sick to the point where I had to take off work. I ended up taking a leave from work. Now, this was after I quit my other job and started another job at a school, which was a blessing because they were the complete opposite of the last employer. I was so sick, I ended up having to get injections in the back of my skull because I had a migraine for a month and I could not find relief. I was nauseous. I had insomnia. Just all the symptoms. And it was because I just thought I was Superwoman and I could do it all. And I needed to do it all. And I felt pressure from people saying, well, oh well, you're going to work, like that's good, making sure that you keep yourself busy and doing this, and oh, you're doing so good, you're so strong. But no one was acknowledging the pain. So if I said, "Oh, I'm not feeling well," or "Oh, I'm really sad," no one heard that, but only heard, "Oh, I went to work today," or "Oh, I'm," whatever type of things that they felt were being productive. But no one really heard my feelings and my pain. And even today, I still find difficulty sharing that with people because um, if that's in conversation, it's something that kind of gets overlooked, or, oh, you'll be okay, or you'll be fine, or things like that. So
Yeah, I mean, what
I'm
gives me.
laughing because
Oh no,
it's
go ahead,
hard.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I started laughing because it's kind of annoying for people to think that like I'm okay. Like I'm not okay.
Yeah, I
But
mean, I don't know how they think that. And I think one thing that I learned too is that people always say, like, oh, I couldn't imagine. But it's like, you can imagine because if you were 26 and you lost both your parents, like, how would you feel? But I think, again, that's why what we're doing
right.
here today is so beautiful and what we have to continue to do as much as we possibly can because people need to be able to have these conversations. But a
Yeah.
conversation is both speaking and listening. But we can only listen sometimes. Our ears only allow us to hear what we're comfortable with. And so it's kind of, we
Mm,
got to think of it this way. And this is actually just coming to me right now. Sometimes us speaking our grief could be like speaking another language to someone because it's foreign.
mm,
It's foreign. It's foreign. If they haven't
mm.
been through it, because I'm going to be honest, if someone was saying to me what I've been
Powerful.
through, but it was their life, I think you can only be sometimes as empathetic as your experience or your
Yes.
willingness. But as a society and
Yes.
people, I don't really think we're that flexible. We're more just gonna hang in our comfort level. When
Yeah,
people
we
start to
are.
cry, what do we say? Oh, don't cry. It's okay. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm guilty of it sometimes as well. And I try to say, no, cry. You need to cry, cry. You need to
Right.
do this. But it takes time and it takes a willingness and experience. So I think as a bereaved person who would love to have everyone understand what I'm going through and be more sympathetic and empathetic and all of that, I have to understand the reality is that most people are only operating from their operating system. And so what they've been
Mm-hmm.
through, because they also could have been conditioned to not express or to not do this in their life. So they're like, what are you doing? Why are you telling me
Right.
about your feelings? We don't talk about feelings in my house. I don't even know what feelings
Right.
means. I better suck it up and keep it moving. So I think what I've learned in my grief a lot now is to expand and be more open and tolerable
Mm.
to people's lack of understanding experience and rather take it as an opportunity to educate them and to show them. And so a lot of things that I say people are totally uncomfortable with. Come on, Ashley. I say part of me is still stuck on the front seat of that funeral. No one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear that. no one wants me to say, oh yeah, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, 2 times it happened to me. I had to take a cover, a face cover, and put it over my dad's face and over my grandmother's face. 2 times. That is so uncomfortable. If someone said that to me, I'll be like, I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk about that. But I do want to talk about that because there's people who went through that, and you can still feel that. And maybe you did. I'm not sure what your parents' end of life services were like, but that is crazy. And again, that could be a whole other topic. But those are the things that I think it's got to be a two-way street where we all got to just hold each other's hands, the bereaved and the non-bereaved. Because I'm actually shocked. I think I've been through so much trauma. I don't realize that some people haven't had people close to them die. I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't lose anybody?
Right.
What? What do you mean you never lost? You have all your grandparents? What?
Right.
Right. It's crazy. I was saying to my wife last night. I got out of the shower and I was like, if you have grandparents, that's a flex. And then I was like, wait a minute. If you have anybody, that's a flex. If you have parents, siblings, I started going through this whole list. Nowadays, it's like people don't have their children. They don't have, like, it's just so much going on right now that we just gotta love each other more. So I do want to get into this part. I want to get into our In Love and Memory segment. It's a part of our show that's very important to me, to humanize our loved ones and make sure that we are not forgetting and help holding other people accountable and making sure that they don't put it behind them or past them, that these people lived and they live lives that we're proud of and that we care about as children, siblings, etc. And so this week with you on our show, our In Love and Memory segment is going to go out to your parents. I'm sure they're beautiful people. I've seen pictures of them, so they're beautiful outwardly, and I'm sure they were inwardly as well. They've raised an amazing daughter, so I said a lot about them. And so our In Love and Memory segment this week is going to go out to Larry and Paulette Fields. May they continue to rest in peace. And Queen, I'm sure they're absolutely proud of you. So thank you for sharing your parents with us this week on our In Love and Memory segment. And our inspirational boost, which I think is so fitting for today, is brought to us by our sponsors, Adina J Designs. They make, create, and inspire us through decorated apparel, custom tumblers, t-shirts. They recently opened up Lash Lush by Adina J, so eyelash extensions. Go out and follow them, on both Facebook and Instagram at Adina J Designs, ADENA JAYDESIGNS. And this week, our quote is, strength is what we gain from the madness that we survive.
That's fitting.
Ooh. What did it say to you, Queen?
Fitting.
Let me know. How that make you feel?
Ooh, that gave me a little chill.
Chill.
I love that. Ooh.
Yeah.
I love that for sure.
It's madness, but we're surviving. You're surviving.
We're surviving.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you'll do it at your own pace and your time. Listen, I loved having you on the show. I'm so happy we were able to make it happen. Before we get out of here, I do have to ask you this question. You should already know that it was coming. I want to know this from you right now. If you had to choose a color for your grief, what would it be and why?
Well, if you follow me on Instagram, you might already have an idea of my color. I would give it purple. Purple is my mom's favorite color, and ever since she has passed, I have adopted purple as my new favorite color. So for sure, purple. It's beautiful, royalty. That's what she is. That's what she'll always be to me. She's my queen, and I love her so much. So yeah, for sure, purple.
Love it. So we're wrapping up episode 81 here, the Grief Bully podcast. Like I said, I've had a phenomenal time here with you today. And so where can we follow you? Check out the blog, all of that good stuff. Definitely let us know.
Yes. You can follow me on Instagram at orphanish. That's orphan_ish. And then I have some links in my bio you can check out. So yeah, check me out on there.
Sounds great, guys. Listen, I'm definitely going to make sure that I leave that information in our show notes. I want to thank our sponsors for this episode, BetterHelp. They're an online counseling organization that's helping us with our therapy needs from the privacy of our home, phone call, text message, video chat, whatever you need. They have the opportunity for you. And when you use my link, trybetterhelp.com/thegriefbully, you will receive 10% off your first month. So definitely make sure you check them out. listen, when we're talking about technology being able to bridge that gap and help us humanize people in the experience of loss, I partnered up with a company called aftr.live. The link is right here. They have ushered us into this new age where you can visit your loved one's resting place from your phone, an app. It's insane. It's mind-blowing, but the ground cam. If you go to aftr.live and you use code griefbully-10, you will be able to get a discount, 10% off the ground cam. Listen, I can't answer all the questions, but definitely go to aftr.live, and I'm sure they'll be able to do that. More recently, I've partnered up with a company called Zen. So it's a phenomenal drink, immunity boost. I'm actually wrong for not having it with me here today. Don't worry about that. Trust me, it's all over my social media. If you go to drinkzen.com/thegriefbully, listen, they've got turmeric, curcumin. Just listen, whenever I see the word immunity, especially right now, going through everything with COVID-19, I am picking it up off the shelf. It's actually how I partnered up with them. So definitely check them out as well. Ashley Queen has been phenomenal. I appreciate it. We're going to hook up again. Guys, everything to connect with Ashley will be in the show notes. You guys already know where I hang out the most. Over on Instagram, definitely follow me there at I_am_J.Nicole. Guys, so next time, you already know. Love and light. Peace.